Welcome to the City of Canyon City Planning Commission meeting Wednesday, June 24th, 2019. I now call this meeting to order. We've been skipping the Pledge of Allegiance on these Zoom meetings, I'm guessing. So, Denise, will you please call roll?
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Chairman Maloney,
Here?
Commissioner Clark,
Yes.
Commissioner Clement, Commissioner Ledoux,
Here.
Commissioner Shagley, Commissioner Moz, Commissioner Randy Smith.
Here.
Okay. Okay.
Is that everyone? Thanks, Denise.
Uh-huh.
Item number 3, we have lots of minutes to approve. I now ask for approval of minutes from March 4th, March 25th, April 22nd, and May 20th Planning Commission meetings. Are there any corrections? Okay, hearing none, I need a motion and a second to approve the minutes.
Randy Smith, I make a motion to approve the previous minutes.
Anyone want a second?
So,
I'll second.
Brian, was that you?
Yes.
Okay. Denise, will you please call roll?
Sure. Commissioner Randy Smith,
aye, here.
Commissioner Ledoux,
Aye.
Chairman Maloney,
Aye.
Commissioner Clark,
Aye.
and that's all.
Is that everybody? Do we have a quorum?
We have Clark, Ledoux, Smith,
Maloney.
and Maloney. Yeah.
So that is 4 people, so we have a quorum.
Okay, great. Okay, Patrick, do you want to move right into the public hearing?
Certainly.
Okay.
So can you see my PowerPoint on your screens now?
Yeah, let me open the meeting and then I'll throw it over to you quick.
Okay.
Special review use accessory dwelling unit at 316 South 10th Street, northeast corner of South 10th Street and Vine. I now open this public hearing. The provisions of the city municipal code and in particular Title 17 thereof, the subdivision regulations and the comprehensive plan of the city of Canyon City are incorporated into the record of the hearing as if set forth verbatim. Patrick, can we have a staff report, please?
Certainly. So good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission. This evening we are here to consider a special review use for an accessory dwelling unit on the Jackson property located at 316 South 10th Street. So the subject property is located at the northeast corner of Vine Street and South 10th. The dominant feature on the property is a single-family residence originally constructed approximately 145 years ago and zoned R1 low-density residential. Oops. So the property is surrounded by a variety of different land use areas. There is industrial land to the north, east, and south. There is commercial to the northeast, and there's R1 and industrial to the west. Now, much of the industrial in this area, it should be noted, is given over to single-family residences. Now, there are several structures that are existing on the site. In addition to the principal structure, there is also a carriage house and garage, an existing carport, and a root cellar. The property owner proposes to construct a new detached garage and shop along the easterly boundary of the property. And part of this concept includes building an accessory dwelling unit as an apartment on the second floor above the garage and shop space. This is an approximate floor plan that was included with the applicant's submittal. You have that in your agenda packets as well. Now, in Canyon City, ADUs are considered secondary residences on a site where they are clearly subordinate to the principal residence. In Canyon City, ADUs are processed as special review uses so as to ensure the addition of another residence will not cause conflicts with surrounding land uses. In evaluating the special review use, there are 6 code-defined criteria pertaining to a variety of nuisance conditions, such as size and location of the ADU, traffic and parking generation, buffering and screening, and generation of dust, noise, fumes, and vibration. Staff has evaluated this proposal against these 6 criteria and finds that the proposal will not create land use conflicts associated with the surrounding properties. Staff therefore recommends that the ADU, that the Planning Commission cite the 4 findings of fact pertaining to this review of the ADU listed on page 6 of the staff report as evidence of the city's jurisdiction to conduct a public hearing on this request. Staff also recommends that Planning Commission recommend that City Council approve the proposed special review use for an ADU at 316 South 10th Street. That would conclude the staff presentation. As always, I'm happy to answer any questions the Planning Commission may have. Present to speak on behalf of this property, of this request, is the property owner, Brenda Jackson.
Thank you, Patrick. Are there any questions from the commission of the staff at this time?
I do have one question.
Okay, Brian.
Given that it's R1 and our previous issues, that I assume the property owner is aware of the 6-month requirement for the property owner to be, I guess, resident on site.
Well, I'll let Brenda answer that, but as she is the county attorney, I don't think she's going to be spending 6 months not living on the property.
I would love that, but unfortunately, that is not going to happen. Yeah, we have lived in this residence for 25 years and don't plan on going anywhere. So we live here year-round and we'll continue that even with the addition of the ADU.
Okay.
Thank you, Brenda. Any other questions from the commission? I can't see everyone's picture, so I don't know if you're nodding yes or no. So just speak up or. Good? No? No more questions?
I have no questions.
Ms. Jackson, do you have anything to add?
No, I guess I just want to express publicly my thanks to the planning department. Patrick has been wonderful to work with, and this is the 4th process I've been through with the city: the vacation of an alley, adjustment of the lot lines, a building permit, and then the SRU for this ADU. And everyone at the city has just been great to work with. So if you have any questions on the project, I'm happy to answer them. But everything's been clearly explained to me. I've reviewed the code myself and would appreciate your approval on this application.
All right, well, thank you. Thank you for the kind words. Okay, so if there's no additional comments, I guess I'll close this public hearing. So now I need a motion and a second to the request based upon the findings.
I can, Randy Smith here. I move that the Planning Commission adopt the 4 findings of fact regarding the proposed special use for an ADU at 316 South 10th Street.
I'll second.
All right, thank you, Brian. Any further discussion? Okay, Denise, please call roll.
Sure. Commissioner Randy Smith,
Aye. Here.
Commissioner Ledoux,
Aye.
Chairman Maloney,
Aye.
Commissioner Clark.
Aye.
Okay,
Okay. Need a motion and a second to recommend approval to City Council.
Mr. Chairman, it's Gary Clark. I move that the Planning Commission recommend that the City Council approve the special review use for the ADU at 316 South 10th Street.
Randy Smith will second.
All right, thank you. Denise, please call roll.
Commissioner Clark,
Aye.
Commissioner Randy Smith,
Aye.
Chairman Maloney,
Aye.
and Commissioner Ledoux.
Aye.
Okay. Motion's passed. Thank you, Ms. Jackson.
Thank you to everyone. Have a good evening.
You too.
You.
All right, moving on to item number 4B, public hearing, rezoning from R1 low-density residential to R3 high-density residential, former church and rectory at 501 and 503 Griffin Avenue, northeast corner of South 5th and Griffin Avenue. I now open this public hearing. The provisions of the city municipal code and in particular Title 17 thereof, the subdivision regulations and the comprehensive plan of the city of Canyon City are incorporated into the record of the hearing as if set forth verbatim. Patrick, can we have a staff report, please?
Certainly. So, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission, our second public hearing this evening is a rezoning request for property located at 501 and 503 Griffin Avenue. The nature of the rezoning is to change it from R1 low-density residential to R3 high-density residential. So the subject property, and by the way, can you all see my screen? Are you seeing my PowerPoint okay?
Yes.
Okay. So the subject property is located at approximately the northeast corner of Griffin Avenue and South 5th Street. It retains an R1 low-density residential zone and has existing structures upon it. It is the historic use of those structures and where they are placed on site that has brought us to hear this request. So there are three structures located on site. These include a church, a rectory building, and a detached garage structure. As constructed, the church and the rectory are built too close together to meet R1 side yard setbacks should anyone choose to try and plat this into two separate lots. The property is for sale, has been for a while now. It is no longer functioning as a church. There is a resident living within the rectory building, I believe right now, a tenant living within and renting the rectory building right now. The church and rectory building, as I said, are too close to be split into two lots. Neither would meet the 5-foot side yard setback required by the R1 zoning. Thus, to make use of the property, potential buyers, rather than wanting to operate it as a church, are interested in converting the church building into residential dwelling units. The only way this can be accomplished, rather than trying to plat it off onto a separate lot, would be to change the zoning of the property from R1 to R3 high-density residential. Now, if we take a look at the zoning context around this particular property, here you have the site itself, and a look at the existing zoning shows that much of the area to the north of Griffin Avenue also has an R1 low-density residential zoning district. However, within this neighborhood, there's also a large number of lots zoned R2 and at least one lot with an R3 zoning designation. R3 is high-density residential, and it's only 2 lots removed from the subject property. Now, in terms of evaluating this rezoning request, there are 3 criteria outlined in section 17.40 of the city's municipal code against which rezoning requests must be evaluated. I've summarized those in your staff report. Staff's evaluation of this request found that both criteria 1, which states the land to be rezoned was zoned in error and as presently zoned is inconsistent with the policies and goals of the comprehensive plan, and criteria 2, the area for which rezoning is requested has changed or is changing to such a degree that it is in the public interest to encourage redevelopment. Both of those criteria apply. There are 4 factors which inform staff's evaluation of these, and again, I have summarized these in the staff report. The first has to do with the location of the church and the rectory building relative to the surrounding neighborhood. In this case, they're sort of in the middle of the neighborhood, mid-block between some important principal rights-of-way. That's not how most churches these days are being built, and I'll give you an example of that in a minute. I would also argue that the inefficient use of the property under the R1 zone district is preventing it from being able to support other uses beyond just a church and rectory building. The idea of a residential zone district is to encourage residential uses, and the church building as currently constituted is not permitting that. Now, the establishment of the church use prior to the adoption of modern zoning is another factor in this. And this is where I get into the fact that most churches these days are in fact going for larger pieces of ground to accommodate larger congregations, and they're going for a transitional type of zoning effect rather than being in the middle of a residential area. Finally, the goal of this exercise is to try and keep this neighborhood residential in character, and multifamily, converting the church building to multiple apartments or dwelling units, would be consistent with that. Staff also notes that modern churches tend to require significantly more land for larger congregations. They also have wider functions than just services on Sundays in most cases. And typically they locate themselves at the edge of a residential neighborhood to serve as a buffer and transition to more intense commercial and retail uses. And I would cite the 2 churches on Franklin Avenue that exist between the residential area to the north of them and the City Market and Big R Shopping Center immediately south of them. So with that, staff's recommendation is that Planning Commission cite the 3 findings of fact as listed on page 6 of the staff report as evidence of the city's jurisdiction to conduct a public hearing on this request. Staff also recommends that Planning Commission recommend that City Council approve the proposed rezoning for 501 and 503 Griffin Avenue from R1 low density residential to R3 high density residential. That would conclude the staff presentation. As always, I'm happy to answer any questions Planning Commission may have. Present to speak on behalf of this project is the representative Dan Slater.
Thanks, Patrick. We'll start with questions from the commissioners. For staff.
Chairman Malone, I have a question.
Yes, Brian.
So under an R3, can all 3 structures be occupied? I mean, is it then consistent with criteria if there are residential units in all 3 structures?
R3 contemplates the ability to put multiple buildings on one lot. You will recall back in March, we processed the Seeds rezoning request over in East Canyon. In a similar situation, they want to take the unbuilt portion of the property, put it onto a separate lot, zone it R3, and allow for the provision of multiple buildings in multiple dwelling units to include not just the principal residences, but also accessory structures like perhaps detached garages. So R3 does allow for that.
Okay, so the existing buildings all fit required setbacks and separations, parking.
Yes. R3 tends to be far less restrictive than R1 and R2 when it comes to setbacks and building separation requirements.
Right, and presumably we couldn't just go to R2 because of those requirements. Is that
correct? With R2, you still have a 5-foot side yard setback and building separation requirements, but you also, I mean, under R2, the most you could do is a duplex on site, which means the church could only be converted into 1 unit.
That's all the questions I have.
Okay. Patrick, did anyone respond to the notices posted? I missed that, I'm sorry.
So we did not receive any phone calls regarding the property or emails regarding this rezoning request from the neighbors. Now, I understand we did get someone who was interested in attending the Zoom meeting this evening, but at this point in time, I've been monitoring the participants to see if there's a note coming in either from Scott or Christy about comments on this. At the moment, I have not seen any.
Okay, but we've met the requirements for the posting, so forth.
We have met the requirements for posting. That is correct.
Okay. And then I'll start, and I apologize if it was brought up somewhere in here. Mr. Slater, what is the outlook for the property exactly?
Right now, I think that the plan, well, the rezoning will help make the property more marketable. The owners are trying to sell the property. The church is trying to sell the property. We would anticipate that the church itself, the church building, could be divided into two, probably two residential units fairly easily. And that's the whole point of the rezoning here, is to allow whoever purchases the property to include that in its consideration.
Okay. Patrick, we've had a discussion on other properties when you go from R1 or R2 to R3, and it leaves it kind of wide open what you can put on there. That's why I asked if any of the neighbors were concerned about the rezoning, but if no one's spoken up, I guess we can move on.
We have not received any notifications, any emails, any phone calls, any letters. Nothing has come into us from the neighborhood, and all property owners within 300 feet were sent notice of the hearing before Planning Commission tonight, as well as having a sign posted on.
Okay. Any of the commissioners have questions of the applicant? Brian?
I don't.
Good? Okay. All right, no other comments. I guess we'll move on. Catherine, any concerns?
No, Patrick and I have been over this application pretty in depth, so I don't have any concerns unless you have some questions for me.
I don't have any other questions. It doesn't sound like anyone else has.
Mr. Chairman, I should amend what I said. I just got a note sent to me from Christie. The person monitoring, Mr. Nisbeth, the resident who is monitoring, says he is listening and has no comment. He is good with how this is going.
All right, fantastic. All right, well then I will now close this public hearing. If there's no further discussion, I need a motion and a second on the request based on the findings of fact.
Mr. Chairman, this is Gary Clark. I move that the Planning Commission adopt the 3 findings of fact as stated in the staff's report.
Randy Smith will second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Denise, will you please call roll?
Sure. Commissioner Clark,
Aye.
Commissioner Randy Smith,
Aye.
Chairman Maloney,
Aye.
Commissioner Ledoux.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. I now need a motion to recommend to City Council for the rezoning request. And a second, please.
Randy Smith, I move that the Planning Commission recommend that the City Council for the City of Canyon City approve the rezoning request for the property at 501 and 503 Griffin Avenue to an R3 high-density residential.
I'll second.
Gary Clark seconds that.
All right, any further discussion?
I think I heard Brian Ledoux second first.
Who wants to take ownership?
You can have it, Brian.
All right, Brian Ledoux second. Commissioner Ledoux second. All right, Denise, please call roll.
Commissioner Randy Smith,
Aye.
Commissioner Ledoux,
Aye.
Chairman Maloney,
Aye.
Commissioner Clark.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Slater, for attending.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for your work on the commission.
All right, thank you. Okay, we are on to announcements. Looks like, well, Patrick, I'll let you talk about announcements.
Sure. So as you know, we've been encouraged by council beginning last fall with the adoption of riverfront zoning to move forward with an update to our zoning, subdivision, and development standards regulations. And after conversing with council about this, they agreed that, okay, those updates should logically follow on from an update to our comprehensive plan. You may also be aware that our comprehensive plan has not been updated since 2001, which means a person born the year we last updated our comprehensive plan has just graduated from high school. That's an awful lot of time to go between updates. So after putting together some budget on what we could do and pursuing and winning a grant from the Colorado Department of Local Affairs, we now have about a $300,000 budget to pursue this. Earlier this year, we submitted an RFP, went online for planning firms to submit bids and proposals for how they would approach this. The bids were due. We actually had a question and answer session with interested firms February 28th. The bids were due March 30th. We got 8 proposals, which was far more in excess of what we thought we were going to get. That was a very nice number to receive. So a committee made up of Chairman Maloney, Mayor Pro Tem John Hamrick, City Administrator Ryan Stevens, City Engineer Adam Lancaster, and myself went through and evaluated those 8 and created a short list of 4 that we wanted to interview. We conducted those interviews in mid-April, and we went on to select the firm of Halcyon Levine out of Chicago to update this. And at our July 8th meeting, it's going to be a joint planning commission city council meeting where you will get to meet the folks from Halcyon Levine. They will walk you through our scope of services and what we're going to be doing on all of this. They're going to be introducing you to the branding exercises that we've gone through for our comprehensive plan update. They're going to be giving you kind of an exercise to help guide some of your thoughts on this and help inform what direction we are going to be going forward. They will be in town, in fact, 3 days that week, the 8th, the 9th, and the 10th. So we're taking them on a town tour. We're giving a kickoff. We're taking them to other points of interest around the community. So I'm hoping you circle all these dates on your calendar, particularly the 8th, for the Joint Planning Commission City Council meeting. We will be doing this, fingers crossed, in person at the council chambers here at City Hall. So any questions on that?
So July 8th will be the first thing we have to worry about, right?
Yes.
Okay, 6 o'clock.
And that's, what, just a couple of weeks? It's right after, the 4th of July. So it's 2 weeks from today.
I don't have any questions.
I think you'll really like the work that we've been doing on this behind the scenes before kickoff. I think you'll be very pleased. Gerald, you know these interviews. Did you have any comment on Halcyon Levine and as one of the 4 finalists that we interviewed?
Well, that was the one I was super impressed with. I mean, they were on top of it, and they seemed to just hit all the points. And it just sounded like he knew exactly what we needed. Do you agree, Patrick?
I do, and in fact, it was a unanimous decision from the committee on Halcyon Levine.
Yeah, it was definitely beneficial to interview them all like that.
Yeah, so we're really eager to have them on board. They will be coming out here. I'm really excited to let you all meet them. This is going to be a really fun, interesting process that we go through. It's going to be unlike any other update Canyon City has done previously.
Hey, Patrick, this is Gary Clark.
Yes.
Hey, I recommend you put out a message about this pretty quick for the members that didn't make the meeting tonight.
Okay, I will. Well, and I had a conversation with Paula while you were doing the minutes approval. Apparently, she's forgotten how to get into her @canyoncity.org email account, so I'm going to have to connect her with that. That's where obviously we send the agendas when we send them out. So I'll have to get with the folks and remind them that if you're not using your @canyoncity.org emails, we need to get you using them. So yes, I will reach out to the folks and remind them.
Thanks, Patrick.
And that is all from staff tonight.
Does anyone else have any comments or discussion? All right. We are adjourned. We'll see you July 8th.
See you July 8th. Have a good 4th.
You too. Thanks, guys.
All right.
Good night.
Good evening.
Good night.